if you guys remember on the first lesson of this semester, I went through this chart with you, okay? We had a look at our overall strategy in terms of getting people to our websites through various methods, including our SEO, our SEM, and backlinks, right? And we also looked at using social media to drive further traffic and engagement with our audience. And the reason, guys, we're doing all of this was to ultimately achieve our desired outcomes, okay, which are there on the right in orange. So getting that traffic and then turning it into some form of a positive action or metric, okay, a conversion of some sort. So we also brought up, what was it? We brought up the notion of a content hub as well, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about tonight. All right, so we are going to look at this notion of our content hubs, or really our content-rich websites, okay? Because in order to get people to perform a desired positive action, we need to first get them to our website, which we're doing through links and SEO and SEM. And then we need to pretty much dazzle them with the content that's on our site. All right, everybody there? We all together? Fabulous. Okay, so moving along. We also had a look at this slide, right, in that same lesson where we talked about the different things that you can be doing with your Content Hub and your content-rich website. So tonight we're going to focus a little bit more on the first part of this right-hand side column here, which I call our other section, okay? So we're going to look at video and visual content primarily today. Okay. So last week we talked quite a bit about blogging as well. So blogging is obviously a really great way to build content, right? It has implications, you know, on not only delivering quality content and establishing your brand as an authority, but it also has a really positive, or a lot of positive effects on SEO and actually generating traffic to your site as well, driving that traffic. Okay, so what we want to look at now is some of the other forms of content that you can be creating for your audience. Guys, don't forget about blogging. I'm not saying that we don't need it or we need to move away from it, because blogging is always going to have its space in content, right? However, we have mentioned a few times that as you know, we as human beings, we can have a tendency to be pretty lazy, right? Particularly online. And by that, I mean, we can be pretty lazy. And I think that a lot of you guys agreed with me on that one. And more than that, right? We are also pretty sensitive. And I know that a lot of people would disagree with me there. But by being sensitive, I mean that we can react to things that tickle our senses, that touch on our senses, okay? Whether it's auditory and or visual. Okay, so what we want to talk about tonight is we want to touch on 3 different aspects of content and look at visual content, video content, and audio content. So now video content is actually going to cross over a bit because video is always going to have a visual component to it, right? It is visual, but usually it's also got an audio component as well. However, we are separating it tonight just to break things down a little bit more, okay? So when I speak about the visual content, I'm essentially going to exclude video from that because we're going to be looking at video on its own. Guys, however, generally speaking, when the industry talks about visual content, they will be including video in that as well, all right? So moving on from that, okay, I do want to talk about photos and images here really quickly, and I want to go over a few pointers regarding those before we move on. So first of all, one of the most common used formats or forms of visuals on a website is your stock photos, okay? So does everybody know what we mean or what I mean when I'm talking about stock images? Give me a bit of feedback here, guys. What do you think? Do you know what I mean when I talk about stock? So, yep. Mike says Shutterstock. So Shutterstock is a site that provides stock images, yes. Andrew, not quite photos of products, purchased images, exactly, Angie. So Richard says such as Getty images, yes. Stock is existing images for rent or buying. Excellent. Okay, so essentially, stock photos are images that you are able to reuse. Okay, so you can get the license to use these photos, or some of them are going to be open source. It really just depends on where you're looking. Okay, there are loads of different sources out there where you can get stock images, and there are options for both free and paid stock images. Okay, so I want to take a look at a couple of examples here of places where you can get stock images. One of the main paid places is that where you can get them, and it's one that we use here at Shaw Academy quite a bit, is Shutterstock, as it was mentioned just there. So Shutterstock is it's definitely worth taking a look at if you have a bit of a budget in getting those photos. But another resource that I use quite a bit is one called Pixabay. So I just want to pull that one up live here quickly to show you how it works. Okay, so here is Pixabay, right? So pretty much you can sign up or log in, but you check out the editor's choice. Okay, these are all free images, okay, that you can use, that people have put up here for kind of vast usage for everybody to use. Byron, you are very, very good. Carrie and Byron also mentioned a site called Pexels, which is great. So you can see kind of the really, really good quality images here. Okay, so you can search all sorts. You can search the colors, you can search, I mean, these are just basically the editor's choice. There's illustrations as well. There are vector images, there's all sorts of stuff here. There's also, so let's have a look at Pexels. So I'm just going to show you these briefly, okay? So, big surprise. Let's search for cake. Okay, there you go. So these are all to make you very hungry. They're really cute and really, really good quality, and they are up there as long as you reference where you got them from. Okay, check out the legal simplicity. It's personal and commercial use here. They give a good explanation of it. You can contribute, you can donate to them if you'd like to. They've got FAQ. What was another one? And unsplash.com. Byron has given us. So I know that we used a good few of these when I was doing, I was copywriting, because when we were creating the content, our budget allowed for Shutterstock, but it was mainly based on our clients and their budgets, and often they didn't have large budgets, so we kind of went through this stuff. So Unsplash is beautiful as well. Thank you for that. Okay, guys, so that's just kind of an idea. I'll put those into your notes so that you can go and have a look for them. But do you guys also know that you can actually do a search? There's actually a space on Google and Wikipedia, in fact, where you can get hold of free images as well. There's a place called Wikimedia Commons, okay? It is a part of Wikipedia, okay? So I'm just going to bring that up for you. And these, they will have specified like a variety of different specifications of what you need to do, how you need to credit the photos, but generally you can use anything that they've got here. You're more likely on this to find pictures of news events and that sort of thing. It's what I've used it for in the past. Okay, kind of current events. All right, so it's well worth having a look here as well at Wikimedia Commons, okay, or even contributing there. Okay, Byron saying Adobe has just released a Creative Cloud stock images library, very similar to Shutterstock. I'll definitely take a look at that. Thank you for that. Okay, cool, guys. So here we go. Those were a few resources where you can go to get some stock images that can be used in your content. Okay, so when it comes to the use of visual content in marketing strategies, it's a bit different. Okay, I do just want to run through some numbers that are found in the industry at the moment, okay, so that we can really see the importance that the visual space plays in online marketing. Okay, and more importantly than that, what visuals are being used and what visuals are creating the most engagement. Okay, so first things first, I want to have a look at some numbers regarding the actual use of visuals, okay, so that we can get a sense of just how many content marketers are using visuals in their content. Okay, so here we go. So 40.5%. Now, all of the stats here are from a survey from taken from 300 online marketers, okay? Okay, so 40.5% of these marketers used visuals 91 to 100% in 2015. Okay, in 2016, that rose to 53%, and 90% used more than half, or used it in more than half of their posts. Okay, in addition to looking at just how many online marketers are using visuals in their content, let's also take a quick look at the types of visuals that are being used. And, you know, for these numbers, we're looking at which types of visuals these marketers are saying they use the most. Okay, so we've essentially got the three top types of visuals that they're using. Okay, let's bring that up. So the top type that's being used is stock photos. Okay, they 35% use stock images mostly. So the types of images I was showing you there. 30% use original graphics mostly. Okay, so they create their own graphics or take their own photos. And 14% use charts and data mostly. Okay, and the last set of numbers that I want to look through, is everybody with me so far? In terms of the most engagement, okay, so these final ones, basically just, I mean, in terms of that type of engagement, okay, and the type of engagement that these marketers saw that happened with the images that they used, okay, so let's have a look quickly. So 42% of the most saw the most engagement taking place on the original graphics and infographics, right? 26% saw the highest engagement on charts and data visualizations, and only 8% saw the highest engagement on stock photos. Okay, so there are 2 points here that I would like to look at. Okay, those, okay? Look at that. 35% of the marketers said that they're using stock images the most, right? But only 8% of them said that stock photos are getting the most engagement. So what does that mean? Okay, so basically what we're seeing is that they're all using stock images, but okay, so they're widely used, but they're also the most poorly engaged. The poorest engaged types of content, okay, which I think is pretty interesting actually. So the reality is that, you know, this is probably because they're the easiest thing that you can use. People see them over and over in different places, in the same places, you know. It's just pretty much a matter of searching for images and then picking them and using the ones that are the most relevant to what your content's about, okay? What I would say, in order to create the highest quality content that you can, do your very best to look for alternatives to using stock images, okay? I know it's not always possible, and it's sometimes, you know, using stock images is the most efficient thing that you can do. I know for us, it definitely was. As copywriters, we just didn't have the professional ability, nor the time really, nor the budget to go out and get original imagery. But, you know, because it was efficient, it helped, it worked to an end, okay? But when you look at the numbers here, you're obviously not on your own using those stock images, okay? Guys, it is the most common form of visual use for the average online marketer, but the numbers also show that it tends to trend or engage audiences the least. All right. So I hope I've made that point. So as an example of this, right? Here's some pretty happy guys. How many of you guys have seen these exact images on a website before? You know, it's people with headsets, they're in customer service, they're assisting people, you know. Byron said before I brought it up, they look fake and set, not candid. Monique's seen them. Richard says plenty of times. Carrie says not exactly, but very similar ones. David says trite. All the time. Okay, so loads and loads. Exactly. Byron says definitely seen on call center websites. Okay, so these are all stock photos, right? So that these are the types that you'll see on the majority of customer service pages on on brand and corporate websites. Okay, so it's pretty evident that most companies are doing this, right? You don't have to look very far to find this type of visual usage, this visual imagery, okay? There's not necessarily something wrong with doing this. I do want to underline that, guys, because a lot of companies do it, okay? Of course they do it. So, but what I would say is where you can look to try and find some alternatives to using just stock images all over your website, okay? June says they've all got perfect teeth. I know. So here, guys, just as an alternative, right, these are some photos of some of the staff at Shaw Academy. Okay? Now, it could be a bit of a preference or an opinion, and it's certainly possible that the images here don't look quite as polished as the stock images that were just on the screen just before this. However, I think they portray a little bit more of a human connection as opposed to the stock images, right? Mike says all boys. Yes, Mike, all boys. No, there are a good few females here in Shaw Academy now, but at the time we just took photos of the guys. Carrie exactly says they look like real people rather than posed fake images, and they're more original. Okay, so just a bit of a side-by-side comparison here. Check this out. So let me ask you guys, what do you think about this? Like really, you know, the idea here is to at least think about the notion of maybe using some of your own images over stock images. And the example that we're looking at here is obviously, you know, of some photos that would be relating to customer service, right? Same kind of thing. I'm actually wearing the same headset as Scott on the right there is. So guys, I'm not necessarily saying that one way is for sure better than the other. And we've all got different means available to us as well, guys. But the numbers do back up the notion that original visuals are going to get way better traction or better engagement. What do you guys think? What do you guys reckon? Tendor says they look great. Janie says, I scan the pictures like headlines. Won't look at the article if I've already recognized it by the picture. That's interesting. It does. It seems like a lot more work has gone into an article if they use kind of company standard, company created stock imagery. The idea, I agree, but guy on the right, he doesn't look straight. Jeez, Tatiana. They look like real people. Kaylee says, what if you're selling photography? Does that count as stock photos? Kaylee, no. So unless you're selling your photography with the sole intention of other people using it on their websites and using it, you know, through commercial, I don't know, like if you're selling it through sites like Shutterstock and that sort of thing. If you're a photographer and you're selling photography, it really depends. I'd like to look into that a bit more. I'd never thought of that, actually. They look professional, Vladimir says. Original pic looks much more approachable, Letitia says. Tatiana, visual contact. He looks relaxed and friendly, makes you want to call in. Nancy says, yes. Google has a stock photography arm. They do. Interesting. Richard says, all the call center stock images have the people farther over to the right edge and have more space open on the left. It gives more depth to the photo. Less posed, prefer the natural look, not posed, Daleen says. Excellent, guys. Okay, so you're all on on the right path. Octavio says, was it Octavio? No, Byron says, Scott's definitely looking at memes. You might be right. No, he's a serious guy. Okay, guys, so I am guilty of this as well. There is absolutely no doubt of it, okay? I will use stock images in my lessons. And actually, the image behind the screen, you can obviously tell at the, in the background. That is from Pixabay, okay? And I've done very basic, very kind of slapdash editing. I will try and do things to make them look a little bit more original where I can, or add something to them, but if I were creating content for a website, I would definitely be trying my best to avoid the stock images where possible. Okay, however, I still would like to dispense some advice in this area when it comes to using and creating images, okay? So, if you can, take your own photos, guys. If you don't have training in this area, then of course they might not look quite as slick as your stock images would be, or the ones that you'd find. However, they can be really effective even if the quality isn't necessarily as crisp. Okay. However, you do still want to put up the best quality images you possibly can. Guys, next, if you need to, take a photography course to hone in on your skills. Here's a bit of cross-selling. You're all members of Shaw Academy, which means that you've got access to our photography courses. So don't hesitate to use those. Will is exceptional, okay? He's a really, really good educator. Or, you could hire a photographer to come in. If you have staff and if you've got an office, anything that can speak to your brand, that you can capture as an image, will be used as stock imagery. It can really easily be used as stock imagery. Guys, many companies are going to, and they do hire photographers to come in for a day and take some professional quality photos. It might be a worthwhile investment for you to get a bunch of original photos that you can use in your content as well. Ultimately, using original photos is going to help to humanize your brand. Okay, if you think back on those stock photos of the customer service agents, you see the same photos all over the place, right? And I feel like you notice it when you see those pictures on a brand's website as well. Exactly what we were saying earlier about reading the article. It's not as legit almost. It seems to me anyway. It seems to be easy to tell when the photos are stock images and not. Maybe I'm just looking for it. Okay. So now, guys, I just want to go back to this slide here for a moment. So we looked at our stock images and the role that they play, as well as the number and my thoughts on their usage, right? But what I want to move on to now is these ones here, okay? So 30% using original graphics the most, and 42% saying that original graphics and infographics are, create the most engagement. So, guys, these are pretty high numbers when you think about 1/3 saying that they use these the most. But more importantly, closer to half say that these also garner the most engagement from their audience. And really, okay, in terms of engagement, your charts and data visualizations come in second behind original graphics. Original infographics, sorry. And I think really that using original data charts and visualizations isn't too far of a cry from what infographics are, right? So infographics and graphics are pretty moderately used, coming in behind stock photos, but their engagement level is much higher. And also, I think that, second place on the engagement order with data visualization and charts is pretty similar to creating original infographics. So in the practical lesson later this week, I'm actually going to show us a tool for creating infographics in the short term. Though, studying a bit of graphic design could help in this area as well. Another cross-sell there. We have a great graphic design course here as well. Okay, guys, so what I'd like to do now is actually take a look at exactly what infographics are and look at a few examples of them as well. So on the screen at the moment are just some kind of basic general images of how infographics can look. I'm sure you've all seen these before, but we are going to look at them in a bit more detail here in a minute. Okay? As we do often enough here, I do want to first look at the definition of what an infographic is. So, an infographic is a graphic and visual representation of information, data, or knowledge intended to present information quickly and clearly. They can improve cognition by utilizing graphics to enhance the human visual system's ability to see patterns and trends. Okay, so guys, that's the definition from Wikipedia on what infographics are. So you can see from this that it does include visual representations of data as well as knowledge, which goes back to what I was saying on the last slide, that the marketers who think of charts and data visualizations as one of the higher forms of content for engagement, that these can be included for the most part in what we're talking about with regards to original graphics and infographics. Okay? Guys, so in order to get a sense of what infographics look like, I just want to show some quick examples of just some infographics I found online. Okay, so Here, the first one is an infographic map of the nature trails in Boulder, Colorado. Okay, so the design's pretty simple. I think it's quite cute with the map and the landmarks, but it looks very, very visually appealing, right? And this is what we're talking about with infographics. They provide information, but it's also a graphic representation of that information that appeals to our visual senses here. Okay? Awesome. Okay. And we've also talked about creating content around trending ideas as well. So here's an example, guys, of an infographic that came came out right around the release of one of the new Superman movies a few months ago, right? Where the artist chronicled the evolution of Superman costumes since the concept was first created, right? It's a little bit pixelated there, but you get the idea. So infographics can be designed to inform, and also they can be designed to entertain. Okay, and these are, because this is still information, right? These visual representations can actually also be way more easy for the consumer to digest than maybe reading an article would be as well. We're a very visual society and a visual creature, a human being, right? So here we go is another example of an informative infographic from the World Bank, which is all about green technology, okay? Here, again, the intention is to inform readers with easy to view and read information. Okay, you can kind of follow the dots to the information that they're referring to. So infographics can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And I've chosen a few here that are really, I mean, they're just the easy enough shape and size to fit onto a PowerPoint slide. Okay, but you're also going to see lots of different ones that are going to be much longer than these as well. Okay, and I've actually put an example of that into your summary notes. It should be anyway as an extra document. It's the history of content marketing. So it's just this really, really, really long infographic. Okay, they can go for ages. Mike says this stuff can be expensive to create. It can, but it can also be kind of easy. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about next lesson. So as I mentioned, okay, we also have charts and data visualizations, which again, I feel really kind of overlap with infographics as well, okay? And you can make them about pretty much anything, using pretty much any information that you'd like to relay. So here's a data visualization or, infographic on the effects of tax benefits. Okay, and here are a couple more where you see iPad usage, see pancreatic health, and fitness and all of that. Okay, so I don't think there's really any industry that's off limits to having infographics created and using data visualization. So, I mean, really, if you have information that you can share, then you have the potential to create captivating infographics. So if we go back to our question here of what infographics are, I just want to cover off and close off a few points about them. So firstly, essentially, what they are is a mix of data and design with some writing in there as well. Okay, they're visually compelling communication that when done well can really, really communicate even really complex data in a far simpler visual format for anyone to understand. Okay, they also definitely have the potential to go viral by being easily shared. Infographics are also trending, right? So if you take a look on Google Trends, how about we do that? There we go. Infographics. It's interest over time. That's only in the last the last 12 months. But let's have a look since 2004. They have become more and more and more popular, okay? We can only see back as far as 2004 because that's, when they started collecting information for this, okay? You can see that they really started coming about around 2010, okay? They started amping up, and there's been a few spikes and peaks, but generally they're still very much in use, okay? There's a little bit lower here, but they're still very, very popular. Okay. So guys, knowing what infographics are great, or knowing what they are is great, rather, let me rephrase. But we also want to look at why we should be using them, right? So first, we've got what we started the lesson off with. Okay, that infographics tend to get some of the best engagement that you can get out there. So there's some data behind this that can back it up. Right? Infographics are also compelling and attractive. Okay, people love facts and they love information. So creating a really nice and easy and attractive representation of this is only going to help you to create higher quality content and get better engagement. 90% of the information that comes through to the brain is visual. Okay, we are incredibly visual beings, so you want to tap into the space as much as you can. When it comes to brand awareness as well, if you can create visuals or visually stimulating graphics that people are going to like and they're going to share and they're going to engage with, you can also basically embed your logo into the graphic, which is only going to help you with brand awareness. Okay, doing it subtly is better than going over the top. Okay, similar to blogging, your infographics have the ability to increase site traffic exponentially, really. Okay, because people generally like to link to infographics. So, it's mainly because they can then earn you those coveted backlinks that we've spoken about. Remember backlinks? We have to cover that again. Guys, which is going to help you with your SEO algorithms. It helps with all of that. So the more relevant content you have, and the more that you're linking or people are linking to it, the better your page rank will be. It'll give you more authority. Okay, and creating infographics, guys, at least, effective ones, can generally take a good deal of research and understanding. So it's also going to help you towards becoming a thought leader and establishing your authority in your field. So, guys, the benefits of creating and using infographics are massive. We are visual beings, so they're easier to digest, than maybe the written word. Which I hate saying because I love writing, but it's true, okay? Your infographics can inform people and they can entertain people at the same time. And they've got positive technical effects on things like your web traffic, your SEO, and also establishing your brand. I don't see any negative sides to this. So in the next lesson, in the practical lesson, I'm going to go over at least one tool. At very least, okay? One tool that we can use to create infographics. So we're going to save that for that practical lesson. I can see a couple of you are mentioning them, but hold off till next lesson, okay? But from all of this information here so far regarding infographics and visual content, just in general, guys, are there any questions at the moment? Does anyone have any questions for me while I take a quick sip of water? Awesome, guys. No questions so far? It's been nice and clear and straightforward. Wonderful. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at here is a quick overview of the use of video in our content strategies, okay, and really why it is or it can be really effective and really important, okay? So now for those of you who've taken the viral marketing course, it is going to be a bit of a recap on some information from that, but I want to make sure that everybody's got an idea first of why or how video has risen so much, and more importantly, why we should maybe think about using video in our content strategies. Okay? So, let me actually ask you guys before we move on. Have you ever dabbled in the realm of video? Are there any vloggers or videographers out there? Or anyone who's currently using video as a medium in what you're doing? Who's using video at the moment? Richard says he's got a couple of videos on YouTube. Music videos, nice. Anybody else? Is this a totally new element to you? Mike says started to vlog and use it as a medium for interviews. Brilliant effort there. Interviewing by video, it's brilliant. Skate videos, that's about it. Yes, Kaylee does. Hope to be someday. Kareem says, yes, I make videos. So there are quite a few of you. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so let us look into this. So one thing that we do want to take a look at and we do want to think about is firstly, why is video content so huge and so prevalent at the moment, right? And what I'd say specifically, well, first, yes, okay, human beings, and I've said we're lazy, we don't have the longest attention span on Earth, right? So longer than a goldfish, but not as long as, I I don't know, a hungry dog. So anything that makes it easier to digest content is going to be a good thing, right? There's no doubt about that. But more technically speaking, we can see huge growth in this area for three big reasons. And the first one is really the quality and the growth of mobile devices, okay, or of the use of it, rather, of use of them. A really big part of this comes down to the technology that we've got available to us to use. You know, watching videos on our mobile devices is really the most popular way that we use our phones nowadays. I know I spend far too much time on YouTube myself, watching all sorts of stuff, music videos, vlogs, you know. In addition to that, guys, in that quality of the mobile devices in terms of being able to view the videos, we've also got a serious increase in the type of video quality that the average person can create nowadays as well. So we can make relatively high quality videos with little phones that are in our pockets, you know, like little computers, little. It's insane. At the most, you may be looking at something like a DSLR camera in order to break into this space effectively without having to spend big money on video production. Okay, so you can go to that route, but you don't have to nowadays. In addition to the technology that goes into the quality of the videos themselves, we also have social sharing platforms that now, you know, allow us to very, very easily disseminate our created videos. So between platforms like Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all of that stuff, you really have access to quite a large audience, okay, that you can potentially get your video content in front of. So guys, these are, you know, what I think are really the big three reasons that there's such an increase in video content at the moment. And I hope that that makes sense for everybody. But just to bring it home a little bit, I do want to look at a couple of stats regarding video content as well. Okay, so this all comes from Hyperfine Media, all of this information for your information. Okay, so guys, when it comes to organizations and business, 96% of B2B, so that's business to business brands, used videos in some capacity in their marketing campaigns. I should read, hey. It's not necessarily creating their own videos, guys, what they were doing, because we'll get into a few different things brands can do in a little bit, but most brands out there incorporated some form of video last year. 65% plan to increase their mobile ad budget to account for video content as well. So that speaks to the rise and correlation of video content and mobile usage, right? So then now, looking at the viewers or consumers of video content, 75% of online video viewers said they interacted with video advertising each month. Okay, 90% of those said that video ads were helpful in their decision-making process, which is a big deal, okay? And then 92% of these online video viewers, which is pretty much most, like all of them, said that they would share videos that they had seen with others. So again, that speaks to the point I was making with regards to viral marketing and the power that video has in this space or in this marketing strategy. Okay, so now when we start to look at some conversion metrics associated with videos, brands that have a video on their landing pages will see as much as an 80% increase in conversions. And guys, emails, that includes, you know, the emails that are sent around that include a video can see pretty much upwards of a 200% increase in click-through rate. Upwards of. So that's the starting line. So guys, what this is saying is that when our audiences land on our websites and there's a video, or they get an email from us that contains a video, they're way more likely to perform our desired actions. You know, whether that's converting them to customers or getting them to, at very least, open themselves up to the content that we're providing. They're way more likely to do this, to engage with it. There we go. And here are just a couple of additional facts, guys, and figures that really help to drive this point home for us. Okay, so in 2017, it's expected that 69% of all consumer internet traffic is going to be accounted for by video. So this is a really significant amount of traffic on the internet that's going to come from this space. Okay, 64% of marketers expect video content to dominate their strategies in the near future. So in addition to the rise of video, the marketing industry is recognizing the trend, and it's going to be beefing up its budget, okay? Or companies are going to be beefing up their budgets for the video space, okay? YouTube is the second largest search engine behind Google. Not to mention it's owned by Google. Did you realize that it was a search engine? You know? Basically, it means that when someone's looking for something on the internet, generally they'll go to Google first, or they will turn directly to YouTube to look for answers to their questions. Think about how you search. This is something that we cannot overlook, okay? Next, YouTube also has more than 1 billion unique visitors each month, making them the second highest visited only to Facebook, okay? We learned that last week with their 2 billion, okay? Amazing. So guys, also last week I was asked about the impact of embedded YouTube videos in SEO, and I've got a bit of information here that'll help us a little bit with that. So similar to SEO, and also as I mentioned that YouTube is actually the second largest search engine behind Google, okay, you're also going to need to make sure that you're optimizing your videos properly so that they can be found by people who are actually looking for them. This goes for images as well. Remember I was talking about meta tagging? So YouTube and Google are not actually watching your videos, so they really have to go by what you're telling them the videos are about so that people can find them, okay? So when you upload a video, you're going to be taken to this screen in front of you, okay, while the video is processing for upload. And there are a few things that you'll want to focus on to make sure that you're giving yourself and your content the best chance to be seen, right? First, you want to add an attractive title. Okay, when people are searching for information and we want them to find us, the title is pretty important, right? I've said that in a few different lessons. So don't just call things video 1, video 2, video 3, or first upload, okay? Make sure you give it a catchy, attractive title that's going to make people want to view it. I'm not talking clickbait, but kind of clickbait, okay? Feel free to include the word video in your title as well, okay? Your descriptors, okay? Or description rather. This needs to capture what your video is about, okay? The description is also used when people are searching for videos on certain things. So make sure that you're giving a really good description of your video, okay? And lastly, down here, you want to make sure that you're putting in good tags for your video. This is like keywords, okay? So by optimizing these 3 things and having an attractive title, a good description, and effective keywords, okay, tags, you're going to be putting yourself in a way better position to be found, guys. Google owns YouTube, as I just said, and video optimization, if the videos are embedded, you know, it would seem does have a positive effect on SEO and page ranking as well. So in the next lesson, we're going to look at some video case studies. Okay, but I wanted to give you a bit of a primer here on why the video space is so important, and also a bit of reasoning behind how it got there as well. Okay, I'll explain the term clickbait shortly if people don't understand it, so just let me know. Okay, so another thing that YouTube also offers us is analytics, right? So similar to Google Analytics, you can gain valuable insight into the video content that you're posting, and you can measure how effective it's been, right? So inside the analytics, they've got 3 main report types. There are the earnings reports, okay, as yes, by posting videos on YouTube, you do have a chance to earn revenue from the actual videos themselves, you know, as we are, I'm sure, all aware of the ads that we see on YouTube videos and that disturb our playlists. No personal experience there whatsoever. There are the watch time reports, okay, so you can here glean information on watching or the watch times, okay, how many views, how long people have spent time on that video, okay, all sorts of other metrics as well. And you've got your engagement reports, okay, so you can then see things like your subscribers, your likes and dislikes, your comments, and your sharing reports as well. So there is quite a bit in there in terms of being able to analyze the effectiveness of your content. Okay, so guys, are there any questions about the video space in general? You know, in the next lesson, we are going to be looking at some case studies to help to bring this home a bit. But does anyone have any questions in the meantime before I briefly touch on audio content? Arne, brilliant title. She said, example, how do you eat cake? Video. Although I would sincerely be worried for anyone who doesn't know how to eat cake. Have you seen that eating cupcake hack thing where apparently you cut the bottom off of the cupcake and you put it on top and you eat it like a burger, like a sandwich? That is sacrilegious. I do not agree with that at all. Sergio asked, is there such a thing as YouTube trends? There would be, yeah. It's like the YouTube front page. Or yeah, there's this, I suppose, a YouTube front page for most topics, really. If you search for something, it'll bring up the most relevant content. So I think there is a trending tab as well. Okay, all good. Everybody all together. So on to audio content. Okay, so another thing that we're seeing more importance on is this audio content. Okay, this is something that we're not going to look at in huge detail unless enough of you guys want to, in terms of podcasts and that, but there is a push at the moment for podcasts. Okay, so it's something to keep in mind at very least. I'm not sure of how many of you have thought about using audio or doing a podcast to attract an audience. So similar to video content and vlogging, your audio content can definitely break down some of those barriers between you and an audience. It can be considered to be a little bit more modern than some of the more traditional tools that you might be using in your blog, right? So we've seen a few different companies, a few different plays in this area, we rather say. GE, General Electric, which is quite a well-known company, they came out with a podcast called The Message. It's not even really, that apparent when listening to it that it is related or created by GE, but they launched it the year before last, okay, so a couple of years ago, and it's an example of a few companies that are starting to come out with these kind of things to help them to relate and reach out to their audience and offer value to their audience. We may see more companies, start to use this medium as well. Similar to content. When you're talking about video, right? It's similar to video. It does allow them to reach their audiences at a deeper and fairly engaging level. So another example, which is a little bit more recent, is eBay, and they aligned themselves with a podcast called Open for Business. That comes from a studio called Gimlet. Okay, so this one was set up to help people who are trying to become entrepreneurs, and it shows them how to set up their own business. So in this podcast, they interview and they speak with people and they talk about the stories that they went through themselves in setting up their business, right? They're all entrepreneurs. And so with this medium, guys, there are relatively low barriers as well to communication and to entry. And it does give people the opportunity to reach a way larger audience and engage with them on a new level. And it's pretty similar to those who are working with videos